Rise and Rayne, GetLife Radio, Hex on the mic, Lane in the booth. Every king starts his morning. Hex, a supergroup, just swapped out one of the best drummers alive, and nobody in that camp is panicking. Lane, beat, that's Adrian Belew, Tony Levin, Steve Vai, and now Terry Bozzio just announced a fall 2026 tour built around King Crimson's music. Bozzio's stepping into a chair that was supposed to belong to Danny Carey. Hex, Carey's still Tool's drummer. That's the reason he's out. Scheduling, not a fallout, not a firing. Tool's commitments came first. Lane, and when a band that patient loses a piece, you'd think the whole thing stalls. Instead, they called Terry Bozzio, Frank Zappa's old drummer. That's not a downgrade, that's a lateral move into legend status. Hex, this is our top story this morning, and we're taking it apart from every angle, the music, the business, the standard these four men are setting for what a replacement is supposed to look like. Lane, let's start with what beat actually is, because a lot of casual fans hear King Crimson tribute and think cover band. That's not close to right. Hex, Adrian Belew and Tony Levin were in King Crimson, not adjacent to it, not inspired by it. They were the band during the early 80s trilogy. Discipline, beat, three of a perfect pair. Belew sang and played guitar. Levin played bass and Chapman stick. Lane, Robert Fripp built King Crimson, but Fripp stepped back from touring years ago. So this run isn't Fripp's band doing a victory lap. It's the two other core architects of that era going back to the source material with reinforcements. Hex, that's where Steve Vai comes in. Vai wasn't in that lineup of King Crimson. He's coming in as a second guitar voice, standing next to Belew instead of trying to replace Fripp's parts note for note. Lane, Vai's resume speaks for itself. Zappa's band as a teenager. Whitesnake, a solo career built on technical mastery that most guitarists spend a lifetime chasing. Putting him next to Belew isn't a compromise. It's an upgrade in firepower. Hex, and that's the story underneath the story. This isn't a band settling for what's available. Every name on that stage is a first ballot pick for their instrument. Lane, which brings us to the swap that's actually driving headlines this morning. Terry Bozzio replaces Danny Carey. Hex, let's give Carey his flowers first. Tool's drummer since the 90s. One of the most technically demanding drum chairs in rock. Odd time signatures, marathon songs, a fan base that studies his fills frame by frame. Losing him to a scheduling conflict isn't a small thing. Lane, but beat didn't panic and downgrade. They called a guy who played with Frank Zappa. Terry Bozzio came up in one of the hardest audition rooms in music history. Zappa didn't keep drummers who couldn't read anything you put in front of them. Hex, Bozzio also fronted UK, the prog supergroup with John Wetton and Eddie Jobson. He spent decades in bands where the material demands precision most drummers never touch. Lane, so when Danny Carey had to step back, beat didn't find a session drummer to fill a hole. They found another architect. That's the difference between a band with a bench and a band that's just hoping nobody notices. Hex, the front page, we're word out the streets this morning, is split two ways on this one. Lane, one side is saying Carey's absence takes something away, that Tool fans wanted to see him specifically play Crimson's catalog because his style and Bill Bruford's original drumming share that same odd time DNA. Hex, fair point. Bruford was known for playing against the grain, and Carey's built his whole career doing something similar in Tool. That connection was real. Lane, the other side of the street is saying Bozzio might be the more faithful fit anyway, because he's from that same generation of musicians who came up reading charts and playing in bands where the time signature changed every 4 bars. Hex, both sides are right, honestly. You're not losing quality. You're trading one kind of virtuoso for a different flavor of the same species. Lane, and that's rare. Most bands lose a member and you brace for a drop-off. Beat loses a member and the conversation is, which legend gets the seat? Not, can they survive this? Hex, let's go deeper on one name here because Tony Levin doesn't get talked about enough outside musician circles, and he's the connective tissue of this entire tour. Lane, Levin's played bass and Chapman